Hi, welcome back for episode 2 of Letting Jesus In with Andrea. Today, instead of a Bible study, I'm going to discuss a topic that is very near and dear to my heart that I'm on a mission to bring awareness to. And that topic is Agent Orange, also known as dioxin. My father is a Vietnam veteran. When he was alive, as a teenager, he signed up and voluntarily went to Vietnam, not realizing that he would be exposed to harmful chemicals that would end up deteriorating his body for the rest of his life. My father passed away at the young age of 55 years old due to an enlarged heart that caused a massive heart attack. He had a laundry list of health conditions that the VA did admit were related to his exposure to Agent Orange. So why am I talking about this today? When my father was released from the Army, they told him, he always said that they told him that he was sterile. He couldn't have children, supposedly. I'm the youngest of his 4 children. My mother actually had 3 pregnancies. I have 2 older siblings, and then I have an identical twin. And I'm the youngest of the 2. I was born 2.5 months premature. I weighed just over 4 pounds. And I was actually sent home from the hospital the same day that I was born. How could that even happen, you might be thinking? Well, that's a really good question. I would like to know the same thing. And in attempting to get my birth records, I was informed that they were destroyed years ago because the hospital that I was born at only keeps records up to 15 years. And of course, I'm 40 years old, so they haven't had those records for a very long time. And it wouldn't do any good for my mother to try to get her records from the mid-'80s because, of course, they've been destroyed. So why is this relevant now? It's relevant now because I have birth defects that are related to Agent Orange. In fact, I found a large community of people through social networking that also have birth defects related to Agent Orange. Okay, so why are we talking about it? We're talking about it because our government refuses to acknowledge myself and thousands upon thousands of other children of male Vietnam veterans with birth defects, with missing vertebrae, such as myself, with degenerative disc disease, with a rare movement disorder that the only people that I've found that have this very specific, incredibly rare movement disorder, I literally thought I was like the only person on earth that even had this because it's so incredibly rare that every doctor that I've been able to find now that it was finally diagnosed had never actually seen someone, had never actually met someone or treated a patient that had this type of movement disorder. They'd only ever heard about it in medical books. And I've now found approximately 5 other people who are children of male Vietnam veterans that have this movement disorder. A movement disorder that is completely debilitating. Now, I know I look healthy. People look at me, they're like, well, you look like the picture of health. Just after my 39th birthday, I started taking medication that's typically given to people with Parkinson's disease. That medication is the only thing that's keeping me mobile. But that medication comes with a host of side effects. And as the disease has gotten worse and my dosage has increased, I developed a seizure disorder. So then because of the seizure disorder, I ended up having to go on additional medication. I also have issues with digestion and with my autonomic nervous system functioning correctly, which then I'm on medication for that as well. I'm on a whole host of medications. But intellectually, I'm sound. I have nearly a completed doctoral degree, which I won't get into. And so I've been denied disability. Why? Because I have so much education that they're convinced that, well, there's got to be something you can do to make a gainful income, even if it's only part-time. Here I am now launching videos on YouTube, becoming a social influencer, becoming a social advocate, because I can't work a regular job. I'm finding activities in order to attempt to bring in an income because Social Security won't help me. Because the Department of Veterans Affairs denied my application for birth defects related to Agent Orange. And do you know what their reason was? They listed all of my diagnoses. No question about it. I approved them all. But because my mother didn't serve in Vietnam, I'm not eligible to receive disability benefits and health care from the VA. Let me tell you what's funny, not funny about that situation. Approximately 7,700 women were exposed to Agent Orange, and they went on to have children with birth defects. Most of those women were in the Red Cross and were nurses, or some of them were active duty nurses. We're talking about a time, a day and age when it wasn't common for women to be in the military. Okay, so let's just be clear on that. However, they fought for their right to receive benefits for their children who were being born with all these birth defects, and they won. And so there's a long list of birth defects and neurological diseases and so on and so forth that these women's ladies, adult children now are receiving benefits from the Department of Veterans Affairs. You know what they're giving to men? To male veterans' children. The only two birth defects that they will consider are two very specific types of spina bifida, where when the child was born, there would have been an opening in the back of their spine. There would have been no skin covering, so it had been their spine would have been exposed, and the potential there would have been like a cyst potentially, or the disc might have been exposed. two very specific types, very rare types of spina bifida, which are a neural tube defect. Those are the only two qualifying disabilities for male Vietnam veterans. Let me just drop some knowledge on you really fast. Women weren't drafted into Vietnam, men were. 2.3 million plus men served in Vietnam. The majority of them were exposed to Agent Orange, okay? And I'm not even talking about those that served in Korea and Thailand and were exposed to other toxins in other areas. I'm just talking about Vietnam, the Vietnam War. Over 2.3 male service members were exposed to dioxin, Agent Orange. And the VA acknowledged, and still acknowledges till this day, that the exposure of that chemical agent soaking into their skin caused long-term health conditions that showed up much later in life. And yet, they refuse to admit that despite the fact that these toxic chemical agents soaked into these men's bodies and caused long-term illnesses that took the lives of many of them at young ages, they somehow refute the idea that it caused problems with their fertility and did something potentially to their sperm that impacted their children, who are now, of course, all adults. My dad was like 35, going on 36 when I was born. Okay, so honestly, most of the Vietnam veterans out there, their children are older than me. They might be in their 50s. And they've been living with these diseases, these unexplainable diseases their entire lives. And our government has turned a blind eye. Our government has gaslighted us for years. Spina bifida occulta, which is the specific type of spina bifida that I have in my spine, which just happens to be exactly where the lumbar and the sacral spine come together. So it's a very important part of the spine. Most of it never formed. Most of it never formed. I've had test after test after test done on my spine. I've had dyes injected into my spine and had to have specific types of tests, a horrible test called a myelogram that was incredibly dangerous to have in the first place. I'm on a Parkinson's disease medication for an incredibly rare disorder called dopa-responsive dystonia. I've had degenerative disc disease, I think since I was a teenager. We found out about the spina bifida when I was 13 years old. It was found on an x-ray because despite the fact that I had had numerous x-rays on my spine, nobody had ever, I guess, x-rayed the very lower part of my spine. My tailbone is literally crooked. It's literally offset. How could that even be? Because the vertebrae that holds the sacral spine in place isn't fully formed. I live with a lifetime of pain and I do everything I can to survive it. People have no idea the amount of money and time and doctor appointments, doctor after doctor after doctor. I've been misdiagnosed over and over and over again until finally, a doctor was able to diagnose it only because he had trained in a movement disorder clinic and had never actually seen the disease. He'd only read about it in books, but he happened to be trained by the one person in the southeast of the United States that tends to be, I guess, like the expert. Well, guess what? I met with that person. I met with that person one time before she happened to be leaving the practice to move to the other side of the country, which is fine. Whatever, it is what it is. And even she did not know how to help me other than to increase my medication, and she's the expert. What? And so then what happens? Well, they increase my medication. Well, then my body's jerking all over the place. I can't drive. I could barely sit still. I lost control over all of my limbs. They were jerking and moving all over the place. I started having seizures. It turned into having to walk with a cane. Then I had to move into using a wheelchair. I still can't go long distances. By the grace of God, I finally was able to start tapering my medication back, realizing that, I'm not getting the support that I need here. And I finally made the connection that I started having the seizures when my medication was increased so highly. So I started tapering back the medication, and lo and behold, the seizures stopped. And lo and behold, I stopped being so sensitive to light. Flashing lights still bother me. I still have to be careful about that. Like really bright, I can't think of what they're called right now, but, like really, those really fast moving lights. Like I can't go to a dance club or something like that. Like that would never happen now. I can't do that now. I have to be very careful about that. But I've been able to get my stability back slowly, doing my own rehabilitation exercises at home, slowly. And why would I be doing rehab at home? Do you know how expensive rehab is? Do you have any idea how expensive it is? And then when you have to pay co-pays that are $50 to $60, and they want you to go to rehab at least once a week, physical rehab, maybe 2 or even 3 times a week. Do you know how expensive that is and how fast it adds up? How am I supposed to pay for that? I had to stop working. So here I am, rejected by the VA, rejected by Social Security. So I said, okay, I'll see what I can do to work part-time. I'll take that challenge. I'll see what I can do. If I can make a gainful employment, I'll try for 1 year. I'll try. I'll be an advocate. I'll bring awareness to the gender discrimination that's happening to male Vietnam veterans and to their children. That's what I'll do. That'll be my job. I'll be an advocate. I've already contacted the White House. I contacted the White House. They've confirmed that they've received my message and that they're forwarding it on to whoever can help me out, I guess. I hope they take this seriously. Guess what, y'all? The midterms are coming up. The midterms are coming up. The midterm elections are coming up this year. It's time to start lobbying. It's time to have gender discrimination written out of bills. It shouldn't make a difference if a Vietnam veteran was a male or a female, or if a person exposed to Agent Orange was a male or female. If their children have birth defects that they've already proven are known to Agent Orange, to discriminate against the person having to live with the disease and suffering through it, because their father was, because the parent that served in Vietnam was a male? Guess what? That's called discrimination. In 2026, we shouldn't have gender discrimination. We should not be having discrimination on our law books. It should not be happening. Why has no one done anything about this? Why? And if it looks like I'm angry, I am. I am angry. I have a righteous anger because I am going to lobby. I don't care if I have to go to DC myself. I don't care if I have to go to Tallahassee myself. Wake up, people. Wake up. Stop discriminating against male Vietnam veterans. It's bad enough that their own country treated them like dirt when they came back. My father was treated horribly. Horribly. Not only was he totally discriminated against when he came back from serving his country in Vietnam, but then he had to fight the VA just to get the benefits that were owed to him. It was a whole thing. And you know what? If my father were alive today, he'd be sitting right here next to me, and he would be cheering me on. And I know that he is in heaven cheering me on. Because somebody's got to right this wrong. The Bible says that when you see something wrong and you turn the other way and you don't do anything about it, guess what? It becomes a sin for you if you turn the other way and you refuse to help. It's a sin for you. Wake up, lawmakers. It's a sin for you to discriminate against the children of male Vietnam veterans. It's a sin for you. How can you look at people with disabilities that live in constant chronic pain? I can't even type. I can't. Yeah, I've got tons of education. I can't even type anymore because my fingers don't function correctly. If I want to type, I have to use talk to text. Well, I guess it's a great thing that they invented dictation for that. Wake up, people. Wake up. Enough is enough. And you know what the most ironic part of this whole thing is? The most ironic part of this whole thing is that I've spent my career being an advocate for people with disabilities. I have. For people with mental health disabilities or with developmental disabilities. I've been an advocate for them. Excuse me. It's high pollen season in Florida. I've spent my life advocating for people with disabilities. Why? Because I watched my father be discriminated against for his disabilities. And I wanted to do what I could to help other people and to help veterans and to help people with mental illness and help people with developmental disabilities. I've helped people that were homeless. I've helped people coming out of prison. I've worked with people who were not guilty by reason of insanity. I've helped people that were traumatized. I recently started a trauma recovery group at my church because I can talk. So I can volunteer and talk, and we can read a book together, and we can talk about our feelings and work through the trauma. If you don't think that it's traumatizing and triggering to me to be totally gaslighted by my own government, guess again. Guess again. And this just isn't about me. This is about an entire community and population of people out there that have been suffering for decades. I'm 40 years old. That's 4 decades. And there's plenty of people out there in their 50s whose fathers were in Vietnam that have been suffering for years with pain, that have had to go through back surgeries, spinal fusions, a whole plethora of issues, spinal cord issues. And everybody just turns a blind eye. I'm not going to let you turn a blind eye anymore. I'm not. My name is Andrea Emond. My father was in Vietnam. And you're going to know my name because I'm going to lobby, because I'm going to write letters, because I'm going to start a movement until the discriminatory language gets taken out of our law books. It shouldn't be male and female veteran. It should just be veteran. It should just be person exposed to dioxin, to Agent Orange, and their child, their offspring that have this list of disabilities. Wake up. I'm wide awake. Are you?